World Championship match 2013. Carlsen had just shown his unique skill with a brilliant endgame win in game 5. And in game 6, his endgame mastery is shown again. It impressed me and many others as well. Let's get into the game. e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop b5. So we have Ruy Lopez. In those times, Magnus Carlsen played Ruy Lopez in every game, we can say so. Knight f6, d3, bishop c5, c3. Castling, rook e8, rook e1, a6, bishop a4, b5, bishop b3, d6. Quite standard position where white plays d3 instead of d4 ideas. Bishop g5, bishop e6, and it seems that black has already equalized. Knight d2, h6, bishop h4, and then bishop takes b3. White takes with pawn, and now Carlsen made this knight maneuver, which is very typical in prayer Ruy Lopez. It was his bet line in those days. He played this one and h3, knight bd7. In this position, black could do also many other things, but this was what he played, and it looks good. Knight h2, queen e7, knight g4 was probably the plan, but first knight f1. If knight goes to g4, queen e6 is the idea. Black wants to break this pin and free the knight. Bishop b6, knight e3, queen e6, and then b4. b4 is probably played with idea to try to get some pressure on a6 in some lines, but black plays a5 immediately and trade those pawns. Black takes with bishop, and then knight goes to g4. Bishop goes back to b6, and then these trades happened in the game. Here it would be a nice idea for white to hit the queen and bishop and break black's pawn structure, but in this position f2 is hanging after knight d5, so there is no chance to play knight d5 immediately. Probably queen g4 is the most natural move here, and then black took the knight, and then f pawn takes e3. This is very standard idea in Ruy Lopez and also in Italian game. Bishop trade, and then after pawn takes back, this kind of pawn triangle happens, and it can also happen I mean in black's position as well. If black plays bishop e6 and white trades it, it seems that there is no weaknesses and white can use this f-file, but there is one downside, and if white plays d4, then it can't take here because these pawns can be weak afterwards, and if this happens, black can probably put some rooks behind the pawn and take this in right moment, and this then e4 pawn can be weak. Probably it's not anything serious, but it can be in some lines, and that is one problem if white tries to play d4 in some point. Okay, the position is equal. c5, king h2, c4, and the idea is to break this pawn structure a bit, and that's why d4 happens. But now we have this kind of position that maybe in some lines black is going to take on d4, and then there might be some chances to create serious threats against those pawns. Okay, the rook raid happened, and then queen b7. And here white played rook d1, queen c6, and then queen f5. I don't know, is this anything serious, but probably here d5 would be easier to play. But I don't know, maybe Anand was playing for more than draw here. But after queen f5, it seems that after e takes d4, now this pawn is hanging, and after rook takes d4, white's position is a little bit compromised, because there is some chances to win a pawn. Maybe it leads to equal endgame, but still there is plenty of play left, as we will see. Rook e5, queen f3, queen c7, maybe some tactical ideas with d5, king h1, queen e7, queen g4, king h7, and maybe it avoids some queen c8 ideas, or tries to get some space on king's side. Queen f4, g6, king h2, king g7, and there is nothing serious going on. But of course, black can just tries to push something, and white has to make some moves. And queen f3, rook e6, queen g3, rook takes e4, and here white chooses to go in rook ending, which is a good idea, because usually rook endings are easier to play than queen endings, and here this is a very understandable decision by Anand. Here white is down a pawn, but the position is equal according to the computer. Rook d5, and now rook b7. White's rook is active, black rook is passive, so this is a very important defensive resource for white. Rook d6, f6, h4, king f7, and now h5. This is quite understandable decision again. After h5, black almost has to take this, and then the position is pawn structure is very weak. But okay, black has two pawns more, and everything can happen if black can play like Carlsen did. Rook d5, king g6, king g3, rook b6, rook c5, position is equal. Still f5, king h4, rook e6, and this idea is quite interesting one. Black sacrifice pawn, but actually this one pawn keeps these two pawns in guard, and then white can black can create something with 3 versus 1 on king side. So this is quite a clever idea to try to make some problems to white. Rook e4, king h3, king g5, rook b8, h4, rook g8, king h5, rook f8. And I remember that when I first saw this game, actually I was watching this in live and I remember that I was quite sure that white is going to hold this, but surprising things happens. Rook f4, rook c8, rook g4, rook f8, and now rook g3. King has to go to h2, and now king goes forwards g5 first, and now white played this one, and black king can go forwards. But here, if rook goes to c8, black can defend it by rook, and if rook waits here, black can play king f6 and go here and sacrifice another pawn as well. And now king e4. This is one computer line. King can go even here, and the idea is to create passed pawn on f file like this way. Black can even sacrifice this pawn and then play h3. And here rook g8. Of course, this is equal, but not so easy to see everything from that point where white had to choose which move to be played. Is this the right or this? And that is the trickiest part in rook endings, that many position looks quite similar and many options looks quite similar, and there is no big differences, and mistakes can be easily made in these kind of positions. Okay, check and king f4, rook c8, and now king e3, and now rook takes c4, f4, and now we have reached the critical moment in the game, and here now it is a good time to pause the video and try to find Carlsen winning move after rook a4, which was losing mistake. Okay, Carlsen played h3, and the idea is to create passed pawn on f file. And white took on h3, and now this is the only move. The idea is to give f pawn chance to go forwards and defend this h pawn. If something like rook g8 happens, then rook h6, and quite similar line can happen like what happened in the game. But here the big difference is that black doesn't have h pawn, and as we can see, even okay, this is losing now, f2, f1, and black is winning. So here white has to play this way, and even here white has to be very accurate, and now king f4 is the only move. We don't go in details in this video, but as we can see, white has to be very accurate to keep a draw here. Okay, even in this line, but this is eventually draw. But in the game, Carlsen played rook g6, and now this pawn is not hanging in those lines, and this makes a big difference. By the way, here Anand could hold a draw by playing b4, and the idea is that those pawns are a little bit closer to the black's back rank, and that's the way to play in these kind of positions. But okay, Maybe this was played because there was some miscalculation or something else. Otherwise, this looks quite difficult to understand why rook goes here, why not b4. But let's go into the game. Here Anand played c4, f3, rook check, king e2, b4, and this still looks quite complicated. But f2 check. Maybe Anand was hoping to get a draw with these side checks, but Carlsen can make progress here. King f4, and if okay, in the game white played this move. This doesn't help either, because now after king g2, black can play this and then promote. And if rook goes to f1, then king f3, and these pawns are not getting anywhere after rook c5, like this kind of standard idea to take this and then this, and if this goes first, then just take on c6 and rook b6. Okay, in the game, rook a8 was played, and now rook g1, and in this position white resigned, because this promotion cannot be prevented, and after check, king can go to these pawns, take these pawns away if rook gives checks, and c5, then similar idea works like in that line which I was presenting earlier. Okay, that was game 6 of Anand Carlsen 2013. Thanks for watching.